I just started. The recording is going.
Okay, go ahead, Melinda. After you take it off mute.
Okay, for Katie, we've had great participation for our classes. Right now, we've had 78 students to have gone through the classes. They have really enjoyed it. I think they've grown a lot. Our teachers have been great. We've had great participation, and the students are very enthused about the classes. We've had some challenges, but nothing that we haven't been able to overcome. It's just been good for us. And we also are going, because of space issues that we have, like we have 4 classes that we're going to do Sunday. We just don't have the room to house them. So we're going to go to third Saturday. So we're going to do this Saturday. We'll do all the classes.
Okay, so in both scenarios, have you guys been doing one class, basically doing it in an hour and a half and trying to get them through the class, or are you guys breaking it up?
Yes, an hour and a half.
Okay, and then in that hour and a half, you're done?
Yes. So we ramped up. We started off with 101, and then the next week we added in 201 and 101. And so we did the ramp in model, rolling in an additional class. So this week, our 4th week, will be the first week that we add in 401. So this Sunday will be 401. This Sunday will be the first Sunday we have all 4 classes. And so they've all been running at an hour and a half. I think 101 has been getting done a little bit earlier. I know at Southwest, 101 has been the one that's been a little bit shorter than the rest, but everyone else has been running at about an hour and a half for to get through the entire curriculum.
Yeah, because 101 really gets to the hour and a half depending on the questions from the new people. It takes about 58 minutes to basically go through the material, but that class will run an hour and a half if you have questions that people have. Someone just came on.
Is that you, Rebecca?
Rebecca.
Okay, she got in.
She got in. Okay, so yeah, that 1.5 hours is kind of standard, especially for 201, 301, and 401. Now, what you may find with your 401 class, that 401 class may run a little shorter than an hour and a half too, because they're going to be working on their testimonies and all of that stuff. 301 sometimes may run a little shorter than an hour and a half because you'll be getting to the shape profile. You'll be using a lot of time to explain the shape profile. So that's pretty good. But the points that I see in both campuses that usually end up happening, so you guys don't think you're weird, it usually will be rolled out on a Sunday, and most people will find that Saturday is a better day to run a consistent class.
Right.
Saturday is usually a better day because, again, people will come on Saturday. It gives them a chance to separate their time. Now, as you look at Saturday, one of the things you'll probably have to keep in mind is on Saturdays, you may have to lend on the children's ministry, because on some of those cases on Saturday, you may have to provide children's time, where you may have to have someone from the children's ministry who's willing to volunteer, especially if you're only doing it once a month or so, to let them know that we're going to need some volunteers, because there's going to be some cases where people will not have babysitting during that time. And we don't want them to say, well, I can never make it to class because I don't have anyone to keep my kids. So that may be something you may have to look at, especially at Katie, for space sometimes, that you may have to use a room just to keep some of the kids. And what you do for that is that when you're doing your Saturday, have people to pre-register. You want to try to let folks know, hey, look, if you're going to come on Saturday, we need to pre-register. And it's important that you need to let us know if you're going to have small children. That lets us know how manned we need to have our children's church. So that's key, that when you're marketing that, you want people to kind of register in advance. And you want to start now, as you start thinking about planning for Saturday, start thinking about your children's church, so that you can try to get some volunteers from there for people to hold out for Saturday. Because, again, we don't want people to feel that they can't come to class because there is no opportunity for children's church. But you guys are going the right way that it usually goes. 101, and whenever you're going to put out the class system, usually rolls out on a Sunday. And most people find that Saturday is a better time for people. So you guys are right in that track with that. But the three things I want you to kind of think about as you continue to build the class system are three words. The first one is recruitment. Recruitment. You want to always have an open line to always recruit teachers. Because what happens is that for so many churches, when they get their class system running, what happens is the teachers you have become overwhelmed. Because again, you want to keep those classes to really be one teacher per maybe 15, 20 students. You really don't want to run classes where you have 35 people in the class, 40 people in the class, because even if you think about a class running an hour and a half, if 5 people have a question that they have for that teacher, the class has already lost its touch. And we want to keep the fun. We want to keep the whole good word that goes back from the people who attend to the church, where they feel they have some personal attention in it. But if I'm sitting in like an auditorium college class style thing, there's no personal touch to me in it. I'm just in this big, huge room. I never get a chance to really relate with the teacher because there's just too many people in there. So you always want to get to a place that you create within the Grow Ministry a form of recruitment. Even if you're looking at a lot of your students as they come through. See, watch people who are good note takers. Watch people who are involved in the class. You can see those lights come on with different students that you even want to have the teachers thinking about, hey, look, when you see a person who's really actively involved with the class, you guys maybe once every 35 days, 45 days, have a recruiting thing where you're actually letting people know we're recruiting teachers. And your name came up to me from your instructor, from your 101 class, 201 class, 301 class, that says you may be a candidate for a potential teacher. So I want to invite you out to this event to kind of tell you what it takes to become a teacher. And we always want to have that going, because what happens when you have 3 101 classes going at one time, or 3 201 classes, and we still don't want to get to a place where we burn the teachers out, where they feel that, every time they hear the word 101, that means you need me. Sorcia needs me again because I heard the word 101, and it's only me and Brother Jones. We're the only 2 teachers. So if they're talking about they want to have 6 101 classes, that means Brother Jones, we're going to be burned out for 3 weekends this month. We want to always get to a place where we're recruiting people. So you want to create a system where we're identifying potential teachers all the time. So we want to do recruitment. The second word is the word train. Once we're recruiting these teachers, we want to have a consistent thing. And I don't know, some churches, I tell them, come up with a real crafty term. Call it the Teachers Training Academy, or something real crafty that you guys can come up with to allow people to come in once they're recruited, to be trained under a format that they walk away with all the materials, but they also get a chance to say, okay, I think I love 301. I want to be a 301 teacher. And we give them some type of certificate that shows that they have been certified through the church to become a teacher. And that's what we want to do. We want to have a graduation ceremony of nothing other than the fact of it may not be on a Sunday service, but maybe it may be a slide that goes up on Sunday during the time, or maybe a video that you make, Sorcia, that says, hey, we want to say congratulations to our new graduating teachers. And you may make that video one time, and at the end of that, they have a little trailer that runs like credits with those people who've graduated, that they can see their names on the screen, and that the members of the church can see that these people have taken the time to be trained, and they're now certified by the church. And then the third one is retain. We want to recruit people, we want to train people, but we also want to retain people. That means we want to keep them busy. If we're going to start running, which I can see real soon, guys, that by the time we get to June, I could see 3 or 4 101 classes going on a Saturday. And simultaneously, where we have 9, 10 classes going on a Saturday, where we need 12 teachers basically going 2 times a month or 3 times a month to run these classes. How do we retain these people without burning them out? Which means eventually we're going to have to create a calendar where they will put in and say, okay, look, I'm willing, I can teach this month, but I need to be off for this second term this next month because I've got vacation, or my kid's graduating from high school, so take me off the rotation for June. But we've got to have a connection where once we recruit these people, we train the people, that we have some type of formal communication, if it's nothing other than what we're doing now, where teachers can come on and we can keep them in the loop of what's going on, giving them new materials, new ways, giving teachers ways to share their ideas from their classes, some tips that, maybe we can focus on 1 or 2 teachers every month in this lesson that we do. And we can let that teacher give us a nugget, a golden nugget from what you've learned from teaching that you'd like to share with everybody else. So maybe we spotlight a couple teachers every month in that training. And what that does is the more we let people know how important they are to the PDC strategy, the more we'll be able to retain them. And they'll also be able to help us to continue to recruit other people. The worst thing in the world is we can have the flow of the people from the church coming in for the classes, but we don't have the sufficient teachers to run the classes. Because what you're going to find is once that light comes on and that person decides they want to take a class, and if they get there and that class keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because we don't have sufficient teachers, what's going to happen is that person's going to lose interest and we're not going to get a chance to get them again. So that's the key. What we want to look at is the recruiting, the training, and retaining. That's what me and Eugene and Sorcerer, we're going to be working on. We need to work on that academy. What does it look like when a person says, yes, I'm interested in being a teacher? What does that class look like that they come to? And then what is the method of training and studying that we want them to go through? Now, I recorded all of those classes from that Super Saturday that we did. So if that's nothing other than the fact that we have Terrell and them to put that on some DVDs, and when they come, we give them a book that have all 4 of the classes in them, but it's the teacher's edition, and then the copies of those DVDs. And that now they can have those DVDs, and we create a curriculum that we say, okay, it takes 6 hours or 8 hours to become a certified teacher. Then what do they have to cover in those 8 hours to become certified? So that we lay this thing out, and we have those classes scheduled. They can set their time, and they know, okay, I need to commit 8 hours to this, 10 hours to this. And they have a syllabus basically that says, here's what's going to be covered these 10 hours. And if you complete these tasks, then you'll be certified to become a teacher. So that's the main thing we're looking at there. And I know I can't see the 2 people on the phone. So if you want to say something, just jump right in because I can't see you to know. But if you've got a comment or anything that I've said that you want to add to it, just go right ahead and jump right in and say what you're thinking. Okay.
Okay, I got something.
Go ahead.
As we are, our focal point, should we be teaching teachers to teach all 4 classes, or teach teachers to be specialized in 1 class?
I think that the best way to do it is to get every teacher to agree to specialize in a class. I think that as we build this whole thing and we begin to build this teachers training, part of what we're looking at is we want new teachers to model and to help in a class with a current teacher, but we want all new teachers to see all 4 classes. And that's what we're going to do in this Teachers Training Academy. We want them to be able to sit in just like we did that Super Saturday. So if we say we're going to do 10 hours, I want to be able to bring people on, whether we do, I think when we do that, we need to probably, Eugene, add that into the live visit, that even though they'll be going through some of this training Zoom, but when we set the live visits, when I come to Houston, I think we need to have that as maybe like the final 2 to 3 hours that they need for certification, where we can give them an opportunity to see what each class is about. And then they'll get a chance to go in and basically follow a teacher and say, you know what, let me sit in your one-on-one class. That'll be part of their certification. Go and sit in a one-on-one class. Who's that teacher that's going to sign off that says, hey, you were in their class? Then go and sit in a 201 class. And then what we want to be able to do, just like we do with the shape profile, sit back down with that teacher and say, based on what you've seen from these 4 classes, which one of the 4 do you think you want to be a specialist in? We really want to start getting people to become specialists in the classes. We really, we want to get some teachers which will be good at teaching all 4 of the class. There's some people that we're going to get that no matter what material you give them, God is going to use them in that material. And we don't want to take them and say, you only can do 1 class. What we want to do with those people that we identify, we want them to become teaching coaches. They're going to be coaches to potential new teachers because we know that we can put them in any class that they can teach. But there are some people, when we start them off, we will overwhelm people if we give them all of the curriculum for all 4 classes and say, okay, you're certified, just be ready for whatever class we need you for. Some people, that'll just shock them half to death. Most people say, look, let me learn 201, or let me learn 301, or let me learn 401. And what we'll see, we'll find some people that are just multifaceted. They can actually do that. And those people we need to identify as coaches. Everything we do, we need to find some coaches.
So I want to interject this. So I met with Pastor this week, and one of the things that he's been challenging me with is having people manage certain areas. So as me being kind of the leader of Grow, having me manage like teachers being one component. I have to have someone oversee teachers, not me particularly. So Rebecca is that person who will be overseeing and helping, as you said, the coach. Yeah. So right now, Rebecca that's on the line is identified to be our first coach over the teachers to help. And Rebecca by nature or by background is an educator and a teacher. Rebecca has her master's in education. And so Rebecca is that person that will, in this first wave, be our teacher coach and help with teacher training. Even our next training we have on April 1st, she's given charge to lead that teacher training and help in all of that. And so I'm taking notes right now, Rebecca, but definitely, I know you're leaning in and hearing all of this, but she'll definitely be that person to help with that first wave of coaching as we begin to raise up and identify more and more teachers and begin to coach in this first wave so that I can, not necessarily have my hand on every entity,
right?
But she'll be the one to have her hand on that particular segment of the Grow ministry.
And that position is basically in Purpose Driven Church. It's called the class coordinator. You need a person who's going to be the coordinator of the complete system. That person keeps track of attendance and making sure that everything is there. The books are printed. Everything is in place. The teachers are prepared, taking a look at registration. What are we looking like for each class as they go through? So that person becomes the go-to person for the whole complete system to know what's going on with the system. So that's pretty much what you're looking at when you're talking about her being the head person as far as the coaches. So she'll be working with the teachers, making sure that everything works and flows with material. I know it may sound overwhelming to you now, but most of that stuff we already have, so don't worry about it. We'll be working directly to help you with that. In that process, even though if it sounds like I'm speaking a language that you don't understand, trust me, I'll be able to show you it's not hard at all. It's just a process of making sure that nothing falls in between the cracks. Making sure that the registration, what are the forms of registration that we're doing for classes, so that teachers have an idea who they have coming into class, what's the process for that. So it's a process that'll kind of help you, Sorsha, be able to overlook at the ministry from a larger point, and then she will become like that point that you can look at it and she can tell you what's going on from within the inside of it, which will be really great. That's one of the things that's missing in a lot of churches is that they'll have a ministry leader who is the person who really is looking at the ministry from a larger picture and say, well, that's going to be the coordinator. And usually I say, no, that's not the person you want to look at, because it's hard for me to coordinate something when it's close to my face like this.
Right.
In order to coordinate something and to do it right, it's got to be like this camera is and the way we're looking at each other. I've got to see it from a full view. So in many cases, you've got
really,
a person there.
Yeah, and what we're looking at, what Pastor is challenging me with is doing that with every area. Like we already have set up administratively. So we have in Katy, there's an administrative team. At Southwest, building an administrative team that does the administrative piece. And then because small groups is separate components, somebody been identified to be the manager of small groups, because as we're rolling into the phases of small groups, as you know, when that gets unleashed in its fullness, you need a small group pastor. I can't pastor small group.
Yeah.
I can oversee the pastor of small groups. And so pastor is already trying to make sure that I understand the importance of having managers, and not trying to have, and not that I want to have my hands on all that, but just setting up right now managers to be over all those various entities. And so right now, that's what we're looking at. Eugene was a part of that meeting. We had a long hour and a half meeting the other day, just trying to figure out how we set that up for both campuses and what that looks like. And so that, you know, those parts are flowing with somebody direct managing those different entities and areas.
If not, girl, you'll look like that man in the circus spinning those plates on the stick.
Yeah, no.
And everybody will be watching you and going, ooh, as the plates get ready to fall and you're running from plate to plate. There's no way to be able to do that. You couldn't do that if the church size was 100.
Yeah, right.
At 100, you have to automatically start thinking about your leadership style and everything else by the time you get to 100. Mm-hmm. And there's just too many people that feel, you know, we can do it with 3 people, 5 people. Good luck. All 5 of those people will probably be dead within 5 years, because there is no way that you will be able to manage the flow of what's going to come in. And you got to think about it. We've got to get this flow right before we start talking about anything about bringing in the community, because that's another tidal wave. Once you start going out there to the community and that tidal wave mixes with the water we already have, now we're talking about that pressure being so strong that you'll be sitting in office pulling your hair out, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that? Small groups, people don't understand. Small groups will eventually be larger than the whole church.
Right.
Give me an example. Saddleback has right now over 125,000 people in small groups. They've got over 6,000 small groups. And right now they've got a whole team of people trying to keep up with small groups. Saddleback by numbers now have more people that are actually in small groups than come to church.
Mm.
So once you start putting small groups together and you start including the community and trying to do different things with the community, it becomes that once that ball starts rolling, if you're not prepared for it, it will run you over completely.
Right.
So I think that this is a good point where we're getting, because again, by rolling it out and trying it on Sunday, you're getting a chance to see the things you can do and what you can't do. The most important thing we've got to look at when we're rolling out class or any new strategy in the church, and so many churches tend to do this, they tend to try to do these things by the convenience of the people. It will never work that way. There's no way we can ever do it by the convenience of the people. So what we've got to do is we have to realize we're creating culture. No matter what, you know, no matter how people see it, well, we're used to doing it like that. Well, when I hear people say that, I always say, you understand, those are the words of death. When you say we've always done it that way, what you're saying is we're like the Titanic, we're willing to go down with the ship. But we've got to understand we're creating a culture. Mm-hmm. And that culture is not the culture of convenience. It's that culture of Jesus took people from the come and see to the come and die. He was really nice and cool when he came to him and said, oh, drop your nets, brothers, follow me. I'll teach you how to be fishers of men. That was the come and see. That's what we do on Sundays when we tell them people, come to church, come and see what we do, come and see what we do. But eventually we've got to get to like Jesus did. When Jesus started saying, one day you'll eat of my body and drink of my blood, and start talking weird. The disciples had no idea when they started following Jesus that he was taking them on a track, that when he said, come and see, they thought it was easy. But by the end, he got them to the point where they saw him down the cross. He had to let them know in John 17, what I experienced, chances are you're going to experience. And so in order for us to become effective, to make the change we need to do in the community, we've got to create a system that brings people from the come and see to the come and die.
Right.
So that's why we've got to understand that's the importance of the class system. The importance of the class system is not to put more stuff on the calendar for people to say, oh my God, they want more of my time. Jesus Christ, I don't have any time. And now they want more and more of my time. No, we've got to understand and let people know, look, this process is to move you from come and see to come and die. We've got to get a little uncomfortable if we're going to be real disciples for Jesus Christ. There's no way you're going to serve Jesus in a comfortable state. And so that's the power of the class system. And that we want to get people to understand. We're moving them. Okay, you join the church, you're a member, but membership is not going to get you in heaven.
Right.
Relationship is what gets you into heaven. And so the relationship builds the more you become a disciple of Christ. So class is probably one of the most important things in the strategy.
So you just touched on something we were discussing last week that kind of made me say, well, we really need to talk to you sooner rather than later. We were talking about the shape profile.
Yes.
And we were talking about what to do with it. And basically, once they turn it in, how do we sit down with them? Right now, we haven't identified a shape counselor, one person. We don't have that right now. But how do we sit down? Because my perspective last week, it was Melinda, Eugene, and I having a conversation. And I was talking about, I think it's important that it's exactly what you said, is moving people from just telling them, we need you to serve, we want you to serve, we want you to serve, you should serve, you should want to serve, why don't you serve, because we've been doing that for years. Right. It is moving people from the whole conversation of you should serve and we want you to serve and we need you to serve, to how do we have an impartation in their heart and a heart change. And I think one of the things I see with the shape profile is you have the ability to bring the combination together. Let's look at what you're good at. Let's look at your skills, your talents, your gifts, your spiritual assessment. Let's look at some things that deal with your heart. What is your heart's cry? What do you love to do? Now let's have a conversation around that, because I think it's important that people understand and have that conversation, that dialogue. Now let's look at areas that you can serve, because I think you can have a talent, you can maybe have a gift, and that still not be the area they're comfortable with or want to. Right. They can be a nursery worker by trade and hate doing children's church. I mean, that may not be their heart, or they may be sick of children by the time they get to Sunday. And so I think it's important to have those conversations, but we have not identified how to do that. We haven't. And I think for me, that makes me uncomfortable that we are this far in the game. We are at the 4th week and we haven't identified that, because really that's not Sorsha. Sorsha does not really wish she was not here and still don't have an answer. But I think that it's important, and I just wanted to get your insight of what you think. Pastor Jay recommended a group session, because he was like, you can't, if you look at what you have, your skills and your abilities right now, you do a group counseling session, you bring everybody together and you dialogue, you have a couple of people lead the session, you bring people together, you walk through their profile, some of the things they talked about, and kind of do a group forum. I don't know how that's going to come across. I don't know if people are going to be honest and open in that setting. Honestly,
Usually they won't be.
They won't be.
No.
Especially not when I'm looking and you're asking them to write about when they were a child and when they were in elementary school and in junior high. People are not going to be honest about things that happen in a group setting. And so I don't have an answer. And I know this Sunday we asked them to bring back what they filled out. And so, what's your counsel on that? What do you think we should do?
I think what we should do is let's collect those back up that they have on Sunday. And then I think we need to schedule some time next week, whereas you guys get them, Eugene, scan them, start sending them to me so I can look over those. And then what we can start doing next week, we can put together what's called the SHAPE interviewers. It's called 310. That's the class. It's called 310, which is the class for SHAPE interviewers. And what we can do is we can get online where we can just give each other source, or maybe we can pick out 15 of them, 10, 15 of them. And we can get online and I can go over them with you. And let's just discuss an open discussion between us over the different shape profiles we get. And then we'll talk about them. And then I'll say, okay, what do you guys look at it? And then so what I'll do is I'll literally take you through the shape interviewers process of what you do with these. And then what we probably need to do, Eugene, once we do this, that's something we need to put on the agenda when I come in, that we'll do a SHAPE 310 training. Because if we can get maybe 3 or 4 of our teachers to go through the interview training, all the teachers have to do is put down the 3 ministries that we recommend, and then we just need some volunteers to call those people to bring them in, where we take a 3 or 4 hour period of time and have people to come in at 15, 20-minute intervals, one after the other. And then someone sits down with them, pulls out the SHAPE interview, give them a copy of it, go over it with them real quick. Here's the 3 ministry suggestions we give you. Here is the numbers and emails addresses of those ministry leaders. Pick the one you want and start with that particular ministry. And the way it works is they get 30 days to try out that ministry. If they like it, they stay. If they don't, they let that ministry leader know that thank you so much for your time, but I think I'm going to go and try one of the other ministries on the list. We want people to know that at the end of 301 that they can go and experiment and try out any of those 3 ministries that we give them, and they can quit that ministry without any guilt or realizing or thinking that we're going to talk about them or something if they leave one ministry and goes to another. So the whole ideal is we want every member with a job in a small group. So for right now, we want them with a ministry job and in Bible class. That's where we want every member at right now. So I think that because we have those now, let's just take them next week as we get them. If you start getting them Sunday, start scanning them and just start sending them to me email-wise. And then let's set a time, even if we do this time next week, let's come online. Let's try to get everybody on. Even if we have to get them to the church, let's try to get everybody there where we can get in the video side, where I can show you the presentation. And then again, we can start going over a few of those so that people can start understanding the 310 stuff. I'll email you, Eugene and Source. I'll send you guys the material for 310. So therefore, you guys will have it. And then we can make that accessible to the people that's going to be on the call. And we might as well just go through the process and let every teacher see what the 310 profile is. And maybe in the beginning when we start, we just have to ask a couple of teachers to serve in between classes the SHAPE profile. And basically all they do is we're going to email you some of these SHAPE profiles. You know what steps you need to go through to pull out the points to help pick the ministries. And all you do is go through them like a teacher grades paper. You go through them, you pick out the 3 ministries. Here's the list of ministries. You pick out the ministries. You send that back. We schedule a person to come back in. We go over with them in 5 to 10 minutes, their profile, and say, based on what you put down, here are the recommendations we want to give you for the ministries and where you should start. Here are 3 ministries that you heard them talk about in 301. Here are the 3 ministries based on your SHAPE profile we suggest.
May I ask a question, please?
Surely.
So when someone teaches 301 and you go through the SHAPE profile and the letter S is for spiritual gifts and the list of spiritual gifts are there, is it your recommendation that people just choose a gift they think they have, or should they complete an inventory to determine what gift they have? I'm just asking.
They fill out the one that they think they have. Because in this case, we're trying to get them into a ministry. The spiritual assessment or the inventory is something to probably go later down the line. And that's more of a leadership development tool than it is for a new person coming in. What you'll find is that most people will find what their spiritual assessment is by working in ministry with people. And so the SHAPE, the spiritual gifts that we're talking about in this is just what do they think that they were? What do you think God crafted you for? What do you love to do? What do you think some of those gifts that God has given you? And for a new believer or a new person coming in that's going through the process, let them check that off. Because what will happen is you'll be able to verify a lot of that stuff when they start to really sit down and fill out things like, what did they like to do when they were a child? What did you like to do things with your hands? And what did you like to do in high school? A lot of that stuff will kind of help us when we're doing that 310. When we see what they checked and based on what has happened in their lives, we can kind of see why they feel that they have that particular gift. And so what will happen is if you feel you have that particular gift and some of the things you have line up to it, then we're going to put you in a ministry where you'll get a chance to see if that's really your gift.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we possibly do a ministry profile form where we give that information to them, they complete it, and when they get to 301, they'll have an idea of what they're talking about in the class. And this is what I'm saying. If we gave them a packet at the beginning of class, and then they were able to fill out all of that information and even do that spiritual gift assessment, when they get to 301, they will have an idea of what their passion is, what their spiritual gift is, and then they'll be able to ask questions or answer questions when they go through the ministry, the spiritual gifts. Is that something that is possible, or you think that might be a good idea, or just say no, that won't work?
Well, see, one of the reasons why I would say no in a case like that is because, again, if you're thinking about the process, we're talking about people that just got saved. They're in 101. They're going through the flow process. We don't want to overload them right away. What you'll find is, like I said, spiritual assessments and those inventories are great to use once you've got a person, they're in ministry, they're now starting to learn their word a little more. We're talking to them about things. That's down the line. What you'll find in the way that the 101 through 401 process works is we're trying to get people to understand the steps of growth that they need. And really, the spiritual assessment, and I know exactly the two you guys are talking about, I use that more with the leadership. Because if you're leading people, you need to know your leadership assessment. That's all part of knowing your leadership style and you know, the intelligence quotients and the emotional quotients. Those are things that we begin to filter out with people when they begin to move into a level of leadership. But in the beginning, we're just really trying to get them to a place where the word and the work comes together. What you find is when a person works and they're studying the word, they grow faster than they would if they were sitting even in a classroom or just sitting in Bible class. So what we're doing is we're moving them there. And really your job would be, as the 301 instructor, as I'm wrapping that last 25, 30 minutes up of that class, we're pulling out that shape profile. We're going to go through what that shape profile is. We're going to go through what each one of those letters mean. And I'm preparing them to let them know that when you leave my class, so do not think this class is over with. You've got about another hour and a half that you need to do on yourself. You need to take this profile. Don't just take 5 minutes and go through it, because I let them know right up front. I'll be able to look at this thing in 2 minutes. I'll be able to tell how much time you put into it. So make sure that you're going to take the time. I'm going to clearly go through each one of those letters, give them great examples of how you fill that out, the types of things, and have them to ask questions as I go through each one of those letters. And when they leave, they're going to take that thing home and they're going to work on it. And trust me, if you go through that process with them in 301, you're going to have people coming back with really detailed shape profiles. I got some of them where some of the shape profiles I got back from people, it takes me an hour to go through some of the shape profiles, because you can tell that this person totally opened up to you and basically showed their whole self to you inside the shape profile. And our job is again, remember, we're the first line of recruiting for every ministry in the church. We're the first line of recruiting for people in the church. So that's where it goes back again to the leaders when we did the purpose leader training, where every leader has to have their own standard operating procedure. What happens when we recruit a person for you? How do you train that person? What is your standard operating procedure that you hand to that new person to say, this is how we do our ministry? If you don't have that, then you need to develop that. And then once you train that person, what do we do in our ministry to make sure that person is retained? And so that becomes a language for every ministry. But what 301 does, we're really not trying to get them yet to that spiritual side of the assessment, because most people don't understand that yet. They're not mature enough in the process to know that. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to add words and terms to it that kind of makes it even more harder for them to understand. The whole point of 301 is that Pastor Johnson should not ask you to serve. God said serve. So if God said serve, then let us help you get into a place so that you can serve. And that's what 301 does. It gets people to the habit of what you said, Sorsha, that people, we don't have to beg people. Now, you know, y'all ought to come out and help. Y'all ought to be part of this. Y'all know what we're trying to do for the community. Nope. That class is to take you back into the word and say, listen, God says in order to be healthy, you got to eat the word and exercise. So we're going to help you so you can go and exercise so that you don't become an overweight word Christian that can't get out your seat to do any work. We want you working because that's what God said. He created you to serve. So that's what 301 does. So in the key, what you'll find is a lot of the things we're looking for in the assessments will come down the line. What you'll find is who will be the first people we probably start talking about assessment will probably be a lot of those 401 graduates who've been in their ministry, they've been serving, because that spiritual assessment would fit into that last circle of purpose-driven, the commissioned. These people now know what all they're supposed to do. They went through 101 through 401. They're the commissioned. Now I need to know if I'm the one that's supposed to be taking my word and my faith out to the world, then I need to know what my spiritual assessment is. Because if I don't know what my spiritual assessment is, I've never taken an inventory. How do I know I'm prepared to go out there to do some of those things? So that would be something that we would probably add down the line after 401, because now that person is part of our core now. They're ready to be commissioned. Now you've learned how to do local peace in my church, local peace throughout my basic list of people that I know. Now I'm being sent out because God says, now I'm supposed to go to all parts of the earth. So now I need to be assessed to make sure, can I walk up to a stranger on the street and share my faith? So that's the key for that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be good. I think next week that'll be good. We'll send them and everybody on this call go through that. That'll be good for us, this group, this leadership group, to go through the training on that. That'll be a good thing.
And then what we'll do is we recruit people down the line to become SHAPE interviewers.
Yeah.
Usually come from out of the teaching group, because you have to have a heart to see people grow in discipleship in order to be a SHAPE interviewer, because we don't want people to just read them and write them.
Right.
They've got a heart. They've got to have a heart to see people serve.
Absolutely. So I think that's what we have for tonight. Anything else? This week is 401. We are moving to third Saturday for Katy. We're looking at fourth Saturday for Southwest. Just kind of as an update, we have marketing, HD News being going on here soon. This week, I want to say we're going to have HD News going on to prepare to market it. Anything else, Pastor Bone, you have for us?
No, I think that is it. I think what I'll do is I'll start working on that SHAPE interviewer stuff for you guys so I can get it to you. I know one of them is a CD, so what I'll do is I'll just burn that down to maybe an MP4 and MP3 where I can just email it, and then everybody can kind of listen to that little recording on it that kind of talks about what the SHAPE interviewer is, and then I'll just send the document electronically so that everybody can have that when they're listening to it. And then next week, that's what we'll do. We'll just go over some SHAPE profiles, and we'll go over them together. We'll discuss them together. Maybe Sorsha, send me a copy of every ministry that's operating in the church. So that when we're talking about what 3 should we suggest to this person, we all have that list, and we can kind of see how close can we come together based on what we read on what this person should be connected to. Because I think the more we get used to reading them and learning the hearts of people, to pick what ministries will be really easy.
Okay. And then how do you do certificates? So we were thinking about doing just electronic. That's what we were trying to go to minimize paper.
Yes.
Because the paper consumption has been astronomical lately. Just printing the books has been a lot of paper consumption. And so how do you recommend, have you done electronic certificates?
Yes.
Like email people their certificates?
Yes, you can email people their certificates, and what you do is if they really want them printed out, they can take them themselves and get them printed out and get the frame for them and everything else. So there's nothing wrong with emailing a certificate. And if you do exactly like I said, create a video and run those names on the video like a credit to a movie, so that that church and those people can see you know. And if you say, no, look, we want to take the time today to congratulate our new graduates. One of the things with 101, which is a great thing, and that's something I'm sure we have to talk to Pastor about, there should be some type of 101 graduate. I don't care if it's called Coffee with the Pastor or a moment with the pastor, where pastor gets an opportunity to spend a few minutes with all the 101 graduates and welcoming them on the team of Higher D, welcoming them as being new members of the church. And if it's nothing but him setting some time, maybe say, okay, I'm going to take an hour and I'll do that once a month. Or maybe he'll say 30 minutes after Bible class at Katy and at Southwest, pastor's going to be in room XYZ. If you're a 101 graduate, pastor would love to meet all the 101 graduates, and he's going to spend some time to answer any questions you guys may have about the church. Mm-hmm. That all he does is just spend time with them, welcome them to the church, and see if there's any questions. And then all he does from there, encourage them to keep up the journey. Looking forward to seeing all you guys in class 201, and that's the only time he has to do that. For new people, that's a great thing for them to be able to say that the pastor is touchable. That's one of the things that a lot of folks say if they feel that they don't have a touch to the pastor. That's one of the main reasons why people say they don't like large churches, because the pastor is not accessible. And you'd be surprised, just that little few minutes together, whether, you know, you guys have coffee there and pastor sits at the front of a table with a cup of coffee. Hey, welcome you guys. Hey, it's good to see all my new graduates. Welcome to Higher Dimension Church. I know you guys went through a lot in class 101, and I just want to spend a few minutes, see if there's anybody in the room. You got any questions about the church? I'm here with you guys for the next hour or so. Let's shoot. What you got that you want to talk about?
Right.
Speak now if you ever hold your peace.
Yeah, we got to put that back on his radar.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it.
Yeah, you got to.
We definitely got to put that back on his radar.
Definitely. Trust me, it's a thing that when a new person walks out of the church and say, hey, listen, the pastor took time to sit down and talk to us. The pastor sat down. Most people, I remember, most people used to the right hand of fellowship. And for a lot of them, that's the only time they get a chance up close and personal with the pastor. So for a lot of them, they wish there was a photographer there so they can do like this and say, I took a picture with the pastor. So, you know, it's good when you can take that time and say, you know what, thank you. I know you could have went to any other church. We thank you that you're here with us. And I just want to congratulate you by taking class 101. You are now an official member of Higher Dimension Church. Right. You know, so just putting it back on the radar is a great thing. Yeah. And I mean, even if we set it up where it doesn't take much, if he does it on a Bible class night. Right. Great way. And let me tell you why that would make sense. It's a great way of getting new people introduced to Bible class. Right. Because if they know that this is going to happen second Tuesday or second Wednesday of each month, if I'm a new member and I took 101, I'm already notified by email or text message that I'm a 101 graduate and pastor wants to meet all the 101 graduates tonight at Bible class. Come to Bible class. So they get an opportunity as new members to see what Bible class is about. He gets a chance to say that to them personally at this gathering. Listen, if you want to grow, you can't just grow coming to church on Sunday. You need Bible class. Bible class is part of your growth process. Right. You come to this to a regular basis. And so he turns this into a meet and greet. But at the same time, he's getting people to understand that Bible class is not an option. It's a process for people that are growing in Christ. So that'll help grow the Bible class too at the same time. Right. That would be good. He could do that before Bible study for sure. There you go. Yeah, I'll definitely mention that to him. Does anybody else on the line have any questions or any thoughts?
Just one thing. I know you already wrap up. Pastor Bone, can you just, for a quick second, talk about as far as that the 101 and 401 is just a beginning? Because I know you mentioned the 310 class, but as we're building this academy, there's going to be a whole lot of other classes that the grow will basically eventually be the professors of this academy, those are our teachers, and teach, this discipleship and teach other different things, which one of those things could be the spiritual gifts assessment. That is something that and so on and so forth. So I guess because I talked about it and it was received, but I just wanted to let them know that, there's more coming. This is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah. One of the things you want to understand is as you teach the classes is basically the generic basic walk in it. What you'll find is as we go from 101, 201, 301, 401, I'll share with you guys recommended reading. What you want to do is you want to make sure that they don't feel that 101 is the end all of what it takes for your first class. You're going to reference books that they should read at this level. You want to continue to grow. Your growth doesn't end with class 101. Here are some books that you should read. If in class 101, I'm always suggesting that people read Kyle Idleman's book, Not a Fan. Being a new member in Christ doesn't mean just because you took class 101. That made you a member of the church. That gave you a basic understanding of what it means to be in church and in the church family. But you need to read a book like Not a Fan. God is not calling us to sit in the stands. He's calling us to play. And then that book is revolving around Luke 9 and 23. What it means, if you're going to be one of my disciples, you got to deny yourself. You got to give up those things. You got to pick up your cross and follow me daily. So in these classes, what I'll give you is a list of recommended reading that people should be taking a look at and reading as they're moving on. 401, that's when you introduce and say to them, you know what, if you haven't, you need to take the class on the spiritual assessment. And 401, now you're talking about going out into the world. You got to prepare yourself. What do you have to do to be prepared to go out in the world? So there are lists of reading and recommended reading materials that you're going to give them to read, which may not be, down the line in the Grow Ministry. As we start talking about small groups and stuff, now you're not going to recommend people to read Not a Fan. There'll be a small group on Not a Fan. If you take a look at our schedule for this quarter small group, you'll see a class called Not a Fan. My suggestion to you, if you've taken class 101, you need to take that 6-week class on Not a Fan. Purchase the book Not a Fan and join that group. If you're in 401 and you're talking about leading and now you're core, buy the book and be part of the group called Chess Not Checkers. There's a book called Chess Not Checkers. You need to read that. All leaders need to understand that. What is that book about? It's a leadership book. Most churches are playing checkers when we should be playing chess. In checkers, what are we doing? We're trying to jump and make kings. In chess, what we realize is that every piece has a value to it. It's not about jumping and moving and taking and kinging me and all of that stuff. That's checkers. It's a base of move. But in chess, it's something totally different. So we don't want to play checkers in church. We want to play chess. Checkers is being reactive in ministry. We don't want to be reactive. We want to be like chess. We want to think 2 or 3 moves out in it. So in these classes, what we're doing is we're giving people recommended reading, but in the end, those will become classes that'll be spinoff classes in the Grow Ministry. That when they finish 101, 201, 301, 401, they don't just finish the class and go and sit down. They'll be sent to other classes that'll help to grow them even more in that area. All 101 and 201 and 301, 401 does is open up their eyes. We want them to be hungry for the materials to become better and better disciples. So down the line, we'll be talking about, okay, what's our calendar as we start implementing small groups? There'll be, if you think about it like a college book, there's classes that'll be. So you may be a 101 teacher and a spiritual assessment teacher. You teach a spiritual assessment in small groups, but you're teaching 101 in the class system. Or you may be teaching Not a Fan in small groups, but you're teaching 201 in your classes. So down the line, that's what we want everybody to know, that all this is, the whole 101 through 401 is a process to move people from come and see to come and die. This is the beginning of our discipleship program that we're going to continue to develop and develop and develop it till we got people going through it, that we've got a whole church that when pastor speaks on Sunday, he's talking to missionaries, not members. When you're talking to missionaries, you're talking to a whole new group of people than members. When you talk to missionary, they're not thinking about their next tennis bracelet. They talking about, how can I put a well in Africa where there's no fresh water? They're talking about, how do I provide food at the homeless shelter down the street with me? They're not talking about the white sale at Macy's. That's the difference. We're trying to bring people to a point where tithing doesn't become something we do. It becomes a way of life. And as a person growing discipleship, they understand we give to live. We don't have to bring up Malachi no more because it's in their hearts now. That's what we're trying to do, is we're growing members and people to be, because when we change people's lives, that's what's going to bring people into church. People don't want to come to church no more, but they want to come when they see people's lives change. I want to know what's being said, what's being done that's making this person who used to be a hellraiser on my job now talk about Jesus. I need to go and find out what in the world are they teaching that it could change this person, because I couldn't do it. So I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. And that's what we want to do. We want people to walk down the aisle every Sunday after seeing our why and say, what must I do to be saved? That's what it's about. That's it. If we're not doing that, guys, we're just entertaining people. If we're entertaining people, we might as well sell tickets. The closer they are to pastor, the more they should pay. That's the box seat. You in the VIP section, they should pay more money for the entertainment. But we're not here to entertain people. We're here to change people's lives.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much. This has been great. I have recorded it, Eugene. So what I'll do is I'll send you guys through the email a link on YouTube where people can just click on the YouTube link and they can go back and watch it for people who didn't get a chance to get on with us tonight.
Okay.
All right. Can I pray this out?
All right.
All right, let's pray.
Thank you, Uncle.
Yes. Hey, Heavenly Father, I thank you for my family. I thank you, Lord, for Southwest. I thank you, Lord, for Katie. I thank you, Lord, for Pastor Johnson and Torsha, who just reached out and understand that, Lord, we need a strategy. And so, Lord, here's what I'm asking. As we spend this time today, Lord, we thank you, first of all, for allowing us to touch your most precious gift. It ain't money. It's the souls of people. And so, Lord, as we continue to walk this path, Lord, continue to light our feet, to light up our path. Lord, the reason why you only light our feet is because you only want us to take one step at a time. And so, Lord, I am just so thankful for what is being done. But, Father, I know that there are greater things that we will see in this walk. So, Lord, continue to condition our hearts and minds to know that you never looked into the eyes of a person that Jesus didn't die for. And so, Lord, we thank you so much for this time. And as we move forward, we are doing this for King Jesus. And we thank you so much for your son and his sacrifice. So if he got so uncomfortable, we can get a little bit uncomfortable. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Hey, again, I'm always watching the 1030 online. So y'all don't know, but I'll be online. Terrell and them know I'm online on Sunday.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I'm on with y'all every Sunday. I always go and say Uncle online.
This Sunday we have a comedian, so this Sunday will be good. We have a March Gladness this weekend.
Well, I'll be listening on this weekend. So y'all, if you online, you'll see me for sure for that.
I'm gonna do a shout out because I'll be doing pulpit. I'll be like, hey, no.
All right, please let them know because I'll be there. Okay, y'all. Love y'all, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.